So now I have the esteemed pleasure to introduce your very first speaker. Tim Brown is one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play in the National Football League and a Dallas native, whoop whoop, hometown hero. He attended Woodrow Wilson High School in Duncanville. He's a proud member of the 2015 class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As Notre Dame's Heisman Trophy winner in 1987, the first wide receiver to do so, Tim was selected 6th overall by the Los Angeles Raiders in the 1988 NFL Draft. He would go on to play 16 seasons for the Raiders, earning 9 Pro Bowl selections and setting numerous team and league records. Since the end of his playing career, Tim has gone on to serve as a television analyst for Fox Sports, NBC, and Sirius XM satellite radio. He has devoted his time and efforts to numerous charitable causes, including the 911 for Kids, President's Physical Fitness Council, and various Christian-based organizations like Urban Faith in Chicago. Currently, Tim is a college football analyst for ESPN, as well as co-host on Dallas CBS affiliate. He's the author of Making of a Man. He continues to be involved in business and charity ventures, and he and his wife, Sharice, have 4 children. Now, here's a fun fact before Tim comes up. He's a businessman with a very interesting connection to the financial services industry. His company, Smart Giving, allows nonprofits to raise funding. So get ready to hear from an icon, a businessman, a FinServ Expo champion, Tim Brown, as he speaks to us today about dedication and determination, the recipe for successful leadership. Tim Brown. Thank you.
Very much. Man, I need to put her on my payroll. Jeez. Carry her around with me around the country. That would be great. Zakiya, tell them what I do. Let's go from there. You're with that program, I guess, huh? It is a distinct honor for me to be here today. It's always interesting to me when 6, 7, 8 months ahead of time, these things are put on your calendar, and then they come up, and you're like, oh my God, I got to go do this. But being that I'm a Dallas boy, born and raised in East Dallas, not just a few miles from here, it's always great to be able to do things at home. My background is obviously of an athlete, but I had something very interesting that happened to me when I was, after my second year in the league, the opening game my second year in the league, I tore my knee up. And the doctor told me, this knee is not going to last but maybe 3 or 4 more years. So you should probably start looking at doing something other than playing football, because by the time you're 27, 28, you're not going to have that, your knee won't be able to hold together. So that freaked me out, right? It's like, I planned to play at least till I was 30, but now the doctor's telling me I'm going to be out of the game. So what did I do? I started a business. I went and got in business, and my degree from the University of Notre Dame was, Notre Dame had what they call an Arts and Letters Business Administration program, so it was sociology with a business degree also. So I went at it, and we started Pro Moves. We were the first African-American company to have a full line of shoes in Foot Locker, Athletic Express, Champs, and all these stores. We got ran out by the big guys. That's a whole nother story. Read a chapter of my book if you want to hear what really happened there. But it got me started in business. And today we're running 2 businesses. We're running Smart Giving Cards, which we've been very proud of. 8, 9 years ago, we were talking to a youth group that had about 60 million kids that they were had under their control, but they had no way of fundraising for these kids. So we came in and did some things for them. So we're very proud of that program, because we started that program for one reason, that's to give back money to nonprofits, and it's been going ever since. A couple years ago, I was introduced to the fuel industry. Now, a very interesting story, and then I'll get on with my presentation here, because I think I have more slides than time, so I'm going to have to move quickly. But I had a buddy I was playing golf with to come up to me and say, hey, Tim, I got a problem. I said, Brad, what's your problem, bro? He said, my business is doing about $300 million a year. And I said, Brad, that's a white man's problem. I don't have no brothers who's ever come up to me and said, I got a problem. My company's doing $300 million revenue. I need another way. But he told me, hey, yeah, I'm in the fuel industry and, this is what I'm doing. But there's $500 million that I can't get in touch with because I'm not an African American. And if you're going to be black for the rest of your life, I think I can find a way to pay you over $100,000 a month for the rest of your life. And I was like, I know for sure I'm going to be black for the rest of my life. So maybe we can get this thing going. But, long story short, we didn't end up doing that deal, but I realized that there was an opportunity in the fuel industry. And we hired some people. One of my business partners is here, Harvey Phelps is here, who's an MBE, DBE expert. And we put all this together and found out there was a real opportunity. So we signed a long-term contract with a transporter, signed a nice deal with 7-Eleven to be our supplier, and we're off and running. And now we have all these companies who are calling us because there's a real need for a minority partner in the fuel industry. So I think from that standpoint, we'll get going here. This is who I am. My daughter saw me going over this last night, and she said, Dad, are you really going to call yourself the man? I said, no, it's not the man, it's the man. She was like, no. And she walked upstairs like, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're doing this. But I'm not calling myself the man. I'm just, saying that we are man. This is what this thing is all about. What does it take to be a role model? And I wrote a book a couple years ago, The Making of a Man, How Men and Boys Honor God and Live with Integrity. And in that book, we talked about a lot of stuff. What I realized is what I initially wanted to do was talk about Christian principles and things of that nature, but out of that came a lot of what I think are business lessons that can be learned also. So when you see role model, just think about employee or think about leader and think about how these can apply to you. Raise the expectations. Everybody who I've looked at as being someone who I looked up to, I expect them to raise the expectations. I'm going to tell you a couple stories in a minute about some people who have done just that. Inspire people to reach for excellence and achieve unprecedented levels of success. Who you are, what you say, and what you do must all align. And that's huge. You could talk about being a father, you could talk about being the boss, you could talk about being the leader in the locker room. You can't be a guy in the locker room who is going to talk about stuff but not go out in the field and get it done. Nobody wants to listen to that guy. I had a conversation with a young Derek Carr and a young Tim Tebow, and my point to them was, hey, man, I know the God that we serve. I understand. But understand this, the guys are not in the locker room to find God. They're in there because they want to win championships. You go play great football, they'll hear everything you have to say. But you have to go and do that first. Have deep conviction, very high integrity, and strong values. Live a life of significance by helping others through word and deed. Now, the young lady who proofread this for me got a little afraid because in a lot of these I had things about God, and she was like, oh, maybe we should take that out. Because that's who I am. I believe that if you're going to be the man that you have to be, you have to serve someone who is higher than you. Thankfulness, and thank you for that, and mental preparation. The power of a routine, get ready for the game. I had, in my 17 years of playing football, I played 16 with the Raiders and 1 year with Tampa. I had a routine that I did every game. Now, I'm not saying I played great every game, but I had a certain routine that I did every game. And through this routine, it got me prepared for what I had to do. And everybody knew that at certain parts of the day that you didn't mess with Tim. Don't talk to Tim. My family knew here in Dallas. After Friday, don't call me unless, somebody's in the hospital. And thankfully, in my 17 years, that never happened. So everybody knew on Friday, don't call Tim after Friday because he's getting ready for the game. And I believe this. I believe that all these principles that I have learned on the football field, in the locker room, applies to what I do in business. It's the same way. Now, when I used to stress and, go through my little visualization deal. Now, I can't do that in the office. They'll think I lost my mind. But at the same time, the ways of getting ready, get prepared for what you have to go through. Thankfulness as a leader, winner. Acknowledge those who have helped. And again, I'm going to get into a detailed story about that in a second. Thankful in all circumstances to people who are around. Thankful to God for allowing you to be in this position. It's how we live our life with integrity and wise counsel. I had a father who never finished high school. Obviously didn't go to college. I was a foreman at these downtown Dallas at most of these construction sites that were going on from the time I was 5 until almost the time he left here. He was the wisest man I knew. I mean, he was the one who would always tell us, when we were thinking about, hey, we got this big opportunity with this store, he would always say, that little store down in South Dallas, how many shoes they sell for y'all this week? Well, they sold 500. Well, how many has J.C. Penney sold? Well, we're still working on the contract. Okay. I mean, he was the one that, and being able to adhere to that wise counsel, I think, is something that we all need to be able to associate ourselves with. Because without counsel, when we think that we got it, I just played in a celebrity golf event over the weekend that was on NBC, and you probably didn't see me because I played really bad. You probably saw Tony Romo winning it. I was a guy who finished 3 hours before Tony Romo. But, it's like in golf. Once you say I got it, it's when you don't have it. It's like, oh, I got it now. No, that's when you don't have it, because you always need more counsel to make it through this life. Persistence creates confidence. Persistence creates confidence. And for me, I was a guy that my high school here, Woodrow Wilson, we were 4-25-1 my 3 years on varsity. Notre Dame came to recruit a kid from Skyline High School, which was our rival high school. And that night, I scored 4 touchdowns. I scored on a kick return, punt return, a long run, and a long pass. I played 27 years of football from junior high school to the pros. I scored 4 touchdowns one night, and that's when Notre Dame came to recruit somebody else. But what happened with me, I had people continually telling me, Tim, you can do this. And even when I thought, no, this is not what I really want to do, people kept telling me, you can do this. And because of those people being so persistent in my life, it gave me confidence. It gave me confidence that I could create my own chances, that I could create my own confidence. How do you know that you can do something? Well, if you've done it before, then you can do it again. When I went through my little spell of dropping passes, and I didn't happen too often, or I wouldn't be wearing this Hall of Fame ring, that's for sure. But I always knew that I could go back and get this thing done. Why? Because I've done it before. Well, it's the same thing in business for me. It's the same thing. If I've gotten a contract before, if I've gone into a meeting room and been able to convince somebody, then I can do it again. Now, it may not happen every time, but certainly it can be done. Have a determined and positive attitude. Now, when you're dealing with a team, when you're dealing with people who are part of who you're going to be and the makeup of your company, you have to have positive people around you. And I got another slide coming up that'll get more into that. You have to have positive people around you. You have to have people who are coming in going, man, we can get this thing done. I'll tell you a quick story. In 1999, end of that season, we were 7-8 going to play the Kansas City Chiefs. We were out the playoffs. Kansas City Chiefs needed to win that game to solidify home field advantage for the playoffs. They were already in the playoffs. We got down 17-3 by the end of the first quarter, down 31 10, I think, at halftime. And we came back and won that game. A game that we didn't have to win, didn't mean anything for us. But that game was the impetus, was the reason why in the next 3 years, I think we lost a total of 6 or 8 games. Why? Because we band together. We did something that we didn't know we could do. We didn't know that because we hadn't beaten the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City since 1989. And to do it in that situation, we realized at that time we can do it. You know, we can have this positive attitude. If we can just be determined to get this thing done, we can make it happen. We talked about that all offseason. 2000, we went to the AFC Championship game. 2001, if any of you folks in here know anything about football and remember the Tuck game with Tom Brady, we lose that game. Should have won it, but it's a whole other story. Don't want to go down that road because I'll get sweating up here and everything, and that'll be a problem. Then in 2000, the next year we went to the Super Bowl. We got beat, but we went there. So, but it all came from what happened at the end of the 1999 season. A band of people got together with a great attitude and with determination, saying we can make this thing happen. And we made it happen. Be there to get something done. And what I mean by this is, man, I tell you, the worst thing for me was guys who wouldn't practice. Guys who come to work, but they didn't want to work. Didn't want to get on the field. Oh, got this hurt, got that hurt. Look, when you play football, you got one day that you feel good. That's the first day you go to training camp. Then after that, whether it's your baby pinky toe or your ears from taking your helmets off and off and on, something is bothering you. So you got to just suck it up and be able to make it happen. You know, and I tore my knee up that year, so obviously I missed that year. But the next 15 years, I didn't miss one day of practice. Now, I'm not saying I shouldn't have missed a couple of days of practice. You know, there was one time I popped my little hamstring, I tweaked it, and the trainer said, "Hey, Tim, I got something for you. You want to try it?" I was like, "Cool, yeah." So he rolls in a bike, takes the wheel off, takes out the inner tube, tapes the inner tube to my butt and to my calf, and said, "They'll take the place of your hamstring. Go out and get it done." I practiced and played in the game with an inner tube tied to my butt. Now, I'm not saying I was smart. I'm not saying that. But I was determined to get it done. You know, I scored, actually, it was the worst touchdown of my career because I scored on like a 65-yard touchdown. And by the end, I'm literally like hopping into but the determination to get it done is what it's all about. But you got to be there. You got to be there to get it done. And for us, that meant you had to get on the field. You know, now in an office setting, it may mean that you have to be there. You know, calling in for sick and because I understand we get sick days, I get it. But in my office, we have different standards. Be willing to work for it, and that's what if you're going to be great at something, you can't be great at something by just half hitting it every once in a while. It has to be a full-time deal. If this is what you do, see, I have no sympathy for players who get in trouble during football season. I have no sympathy for players who get in trouble anytime. Because if you really want to be great at something and you really want to let people know that there's a difference between you and the next guy, you're not going to ever put yourself in a position to be in trouble. You're not going to ever allow yourself to be in that kind of predicament where you would be in a situation like that. But you got to be willing to work for it. You got to be willing to set things aside and say, "Hey, I'll deal with that later." The game of confidence, critical to success in life. So let me tell you a story. I left Woodrow Wilson High School with one thing in mind and one thing in mind at all. And that was I was going to go and get me an education. I was going to come back here, marry my high school sweetheart, be a deacon in the church, and have 6 kids, and I was going to live the rest of my life. That was that's what I told everybody. Now, why did I say that? Because before I walked out my house to go to Notre Dame, my mom and dad told me, "Boy, there's no future football for you. You go up there and get that education and come on back home and get to work." And that was my mindset. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do whatever I need to do, I'm going to get this education, come on back home, got a high school sweetheart, we're going to get married, and we're going to move on with life. That was my mindset. The mind tells the body what to do. And the great Lou Holtz came in to the University of Notre Dame, and going into my junior year. I was playing, I was on time to graduate, everything was great, so that was the only thing that mattered to me. And he came in after 2 days of practice and said, Tim Brown, you could be the best player in the country. I was like, Coach, you got the wrong guy. I repeated to him, I'm here for one reason, to get a great education. After that, I'm going to go home, marry my high school sweetheart, get in the church, have 6 kids. I came short of that 6, y'all, but that's a whole nother story. Oh, by the way, my high school sweetheart dumped me the night I won the Heisman. That's a whole nother story that I really wish I had time to get into, but I don't. Talent isn't enough. Talent isn't enough. I obviously had the talent, but I didn't have that deep confidence that I could make this thing happen. I didn't have that because that's not how I was brought up. I was brought up to my mom and dad. My mom had dropped out of high school also. She later went back and got her high school degree. But my dad, his whole thing was, I don't want you to work with your hands like I got to work with my hands. So I was so determined that, I never thought about football and how it can take me to levels that I never dreamt of. I never thought about that. But I was so focused on getting that education. Be mentally strong. It must be cultivated. I'll show you guys a video here in a second, and I wish I could have shown you the video of the very first time that I touched the ball at the University of Notre Dame. As I told you real quick here, I came from a high school that didn't win much, and when I got to the University of Notre Dame, we were opening up a new stadium in Indianapolis, 82,000 people. I had never played in front of more than 500 people. And the coach kept saying, Tim, we're gonna work you into the game very slowly. I was like, Coach, that's a great idea. I'm with that game plan. And we get in the locker room, the coach gets excited. Tim Brown, if we win the opening toss, the flip of the coin, I want you to return the kickoff. I was like, that's not the game plan we talked about, Coach. And I went into shock. How do you know you went into shock, Tim? Because I went to the football field without my helmet. The seniors were behind me just walking and laughing, and finally, when I got to the field, they say, hey, freshman, did you forget something? I was like, what? They was like, your helmet. So I went back in, got my helmet, came back out. I wasn't Catholic in anything, but I was like, Lord, help me, full of grace. Please let us lose the opening toss. Please. No, we win the opening toss. And now I'm trying to man up, pounding my chest. Oh, we can do this, Tim. You can do this. And I knew they were going to squib kick the ball. They did. To my surprise, I got in front of the ball, scooped the ball up, ran into the back of one of my players, dropped the ball, didn't know I had dropped the ball. Ran a couple more yards, wondering why nobody was chasing me. Didn't realize the ball was back on the 9-yard line. That's how I started my career. But I'm going to show you guys a film in a minute. But this must be cultivated. Confidence, not everybody is confident. Not everybody has that natural thing it's in them, but it doesn't naturally come out. Now, you have some guys, we had these guys in the locker room who were overly confident, the cocky guys, but those guys are the worst ones. They were the ones, as soon as they got hit in the chest, they got hit in the nose, they the ones back up. But this thing must be cultivated. Belief in self. Believe you have the opportunities and potential to do something special. I think this is where my video is going to come in here. Let's see. Can you stop that for a second? Stop that real quick. Now, I played that video for one reason, and I was trying to get it stopped because I don't know if you guys heard what the commentator said. He said, "Now it's time for Tim Brown. Tim Brown he's got to return this," because what had happened. I'm 35 years old at this particular point. With that punt return, I became the oldest man in the history of the NFL to return a punt for a touchdown. Now, some people may say I'm the dumbest man in the history of the NFL to be back there at 35 years old and return punts. So I was out the punt return game. I wanted no parts of the punt return game anymore. So I had been back there 12 times a year and had fair caught every one. I literally would go on the field like this, ready to wave my hand and say fair catch. So right before this, they had punted and they were illegally downfield too early. So, and that's why the announcer said he has to take this back, because I had a buddy, Randy Jordan, in that film, in number 28, who ran all the way back and said, "Tim Brown, you better return this punt." I said, "Randy, if anybody touches me, we're going to be fighting after this." And as you can see, that didn't happen. No one touched me. But even in that situation, trying to be confident, trying to even at 35 years old and having a great career at that particular time, but still there was a little bit in me that had to be pulled out. And that's the thing that I say to all leaders and to all employees. We have more inside of us, but we have to be willing to listen to people who we know are trying to do the right thing. We have to be willing to do that. Even in a situation like this, I am on my way to the NFL Hall of Fame, even at that stage of my career, and I'm still being provoked by another player to Tim, dig deeper. Dig deeper if you want to make this thing happen. Dig deeper. And because of that, I'm going down in history of the NFL, because there would be nobody dumb enough at 35 years old to be returning punts. So I know I'm going to have that record for the rest of my life, no doubt. The role of mentor, again, you can substitute employee, you can substitute leader, you can substitute owner of a company. Whatever you want to substitute here, please do. A mentor will see what you cannot see is within you. And that's what Lou Holtz did for me. Because I wasn't thinking that, all of a sudden, he started saying all these great things about me. He made the comment that I was the most intelligent athlete that he had ever been around. And all the reporters flocked to South Bend. Like, who is this guy Lou Holtz is talking about? I was like, guys, he was at Arkansas and Minnesota. Him saying I'm the most intelligent athlete he's ever been around doesn't mean much, because look where he's come from. But, I think from that standpoint, this guy was putting stuff in me that I didn't want to accept. And finally, you know what I said? I said, man, let's prove this guy wrong. Let's prove him wrong. Let's just go out and do everything he's asking me to do. At the end, he will see that he's wrong. Well, then I was the best player in the country. Why? Because I decided to finally give in to this guy and listen to what he has to say. And that's how we have to be as a player. I had to be that way. Now my role may be reversed. Now I may be the one who's trying to inspire someone to be better, to be great, to encourage you and want you to do well, be a spiritual rock and guide. And believe me, this was in here a lot more than it's in there now. But because I think that is the rock of any man, any woman, you have to have a side that is strong. Otherwise, once we start dealing with emotions, our emotions, and things of that nature, and making decisions with people's lives, I think we can get in trouble pretty quickly. Say what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. Motivated to invest their time and pass on their wisdom to you. Take responsibility for your actions. Create the best solution for an imperfect situation. Create the best solution for an imperfect situation. Own your mistakes and deal with the fallout. As an athlete, being on a team, it was pretty obvious when you made a mistake. You drop a ball, you fumble, missed a block, whatever. Everybody knew. The film don't lie. We used to say the eye in the sky never lies. So the whole deal was, how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with the mess up? Were you going to come in and say, well, if so-and-so wouldn't have, went by me so quickly, then I would have seen the ball and I would have, how are you going to deal with it? But the guys who were real players, the Howie Longs that I played with, the Marcus Allens, the Bo Jacksons, the Jerry Rices, the guys who I played with, the great, great players, the Ronnie Lotts, they were the first one to always hit their chest. My bad. My bad. What can I do to make up for that? What can I do to make up for it? Because that's what it's all about. You know, you have to have people who are willing to say, hey, that was on me. What can I do to rectify this situation? And let's move on down the road. Act with integrity and be a great model for those around you. To me, there's really, I could have talked about that for an hour. Really, I could have. I mean, the name of my book is The Making of a Man, you know. And, you know, so I think that I could have talked about, because I think if you're going to have a great company, if you're going to have great people, you got to be a great role model. I believe that's, if you're not a great role model, you can't expect people around you to be great. Ask for guidance on how to repair a mistake, and what that really said was ask God for guidance on how to repair a mistake. I think I'm winding down here, time and slides. Play mentally strong. You can't win if you play scared. Be smart and protect yourself while being assertive. Have an I'm going to get it done no matter what attitude. You know, I mean, the worst thing for me was we used to run this play. Twins right, Z motion, 58 crack, 58 Z crack. That don't mean anything to you. It just made my heart palpitate. Why? Because that meant I had to start out wide, come down in motion, and go crack the middle linebacker. And I didn't want to do it. Never wanted to do it. But I found a way to get it done. I can remember we were playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and we ran this play about 5 times, and the great Derek Thomas was playing Will Backer, and he saw me coming. He said, "You coming?" I was like, "I'm coming." He just started running right at me. I mean, it was that, you know, and yeah, I got a headache. I got put on my butt, the whole deal, but my back got around the corner, and that's all that matters. You know, I'm going to get it done, no matter what it takes. You know, now, you know, in Raider world, you know, we had a little motto, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, you know, but, you know, so maybe I grabbed him a little bit to help him, you know, but you got to do what you got to do as long as you get called for it, right? So approach life with total commitment and confidence, and have an attitude of strength. I mean, positive people around you, strong mentally people around you. I mean, that's what this thing is all about. And this is what I'm talking about. Infectious enthusiasm is contagious. I mean, look, if you're going to have a team, if you're going to have a company, you have to have people who want to be there on a day-to-day basis. You have to have people who are, you know, all in on trying to accomplish whatever the thing that you're trying to get accomplished is. Build a team around you, around your business, strategic game plan, and your style of play. You know? I mean, look, I am building a MBE fuel supply and transport company. Yes, I have one guy, Mark, who is a fuel industry guru, can tell you everything about it. You know, got to have that guy. Because when I finish talking about football in the meeting, I need somebody to be able to talk about fuel. Got 2 people, Harvey and his partner Phil, who can break everything down with the MBE, DBE, and know everything about it. Make everybody feel comfortable that we're doing everything the right way. But everybody else who I'm going to bring into the company are going to be people who I want to be around, who understands how I like to play the game. You know, we can teach them what they need to do. I mean, they're business people, so we don't have to teach them business, but we can teach them the industry. But I got to have people around me who are all in at all times. You have to carefully choose those people. Be close to someone who aspire you. There are people who I'm going to bring in. I want them around me because I love them. I love what they do. I love how they go about their business in life. I want people around like that. I want people who are going to help hold me accountable for everything I do. I lost my accountability partner about 7 years ago. big guy, big Chester McLaughlin, 6'6", 370-pound defensive tackle. He passed away, 42 years old, about 7 years ago. He was my guy. He was my football guy. I could talk football with him. He introduced me to my wife. So, when I got mad at her, I would call him. And what you doing to me? What you trying to do to me? We basically got saved around the same time, so we had that in common also. So to lose someone like that was tough. But God is amazing. You may not get all that in one person, but he's given me that in 3 or 4 people. Why? Because we need to be accountable. You can't ever think you got it to the point. Like I said earlier, the minute you think you have it, that's when you don't have it. And that's the same thing with this. You have to have someone to share your problems with and be accountable. Have someone, I think I missed this one, who encourages you ethically and morally, which is, that's the name of my game. You're not going to be around me, especially in my company, if you're just not going to do things right. I mean, I have the ability to say yes or no to that, and I choose no because I've been around that situation for too long. I understand what that does to business. I understand what that can do to a locker room, so there's no reason to even mess around with it. It just doesn't matter who you are and how high you go up the totem pole. If you're not doing things right, then in my company, I have the right to say no. And I will say no. This is it, guys. I can't believe I made it. I can't believe I made it. I guess I didn't tell enough stories. If you're going to be successful, you have to have a system. You have to have something that works. I think the hardest thing for me to deal with, or was for me to deal with back in the day was, when a guy would come in the locker room one day and he wanted to do things this way. And then he had a bad game. So the next week, he changed his system to do, that didn't work. Then we went this way. I had a coach one time to announce that there would be no cursing. There would be no cursing on the football field here or in this facility. And we lost the first 4 out of 5 games, and he came in there and dog cursed all of us. And then he got called out on it. Then he dog cursed that guy some more. He didn't have a system in place. He thought he did, but he was making it up as he went. He didn't have anything that was real. We have to have a system in place. You have to know what works for you, what works for your company, and build on that. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's when you know you're on the right track, when not everybody likes what you're trying to do. Leverage a system that has been proven elsewhere when possible. Say when the lights come on, I had a couple more minutes. See, boy, I'm getting pretty decent at this time thing. Leverage a system that has been proven somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, for years, we tried to emulate what the San Francisco 49ers were doing offensively. We just didn't have Joe Montana or Steve Young. So it made it pretty tough to do that, But you have to do that. You have to find a system. If you don't have a system that works, find one that works and try and emulate it. Believe in the system and in the people around you. Believe in the system and in the people around you. I can't tell you how important, because if going to work, if I don't believe in the people that I have in there, I got a problem. That's a major problem. And now once we get into it, and I can't, the system that we have in place is not working. That is a very tough position to be in, as a business person, as a team. It's a very difficult place to be in. So I think, I know what I've talked about here today, it's probably pretty basic, and all you guys are saying, yeah, I get it. But I can't tell you how important it is to have a great system in place and to check the people who are around you and make sure, because there was, last story, I promise. There was a guy, and he came from these Dallas Cowboys too. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say no names. Came from Dallas Cowboys. Had won a couple championships. And by the time he got to the Raiders, he was done. Didn't want to play. They gave him a lot of money up front, so he just figured he didn't have to do it no more. So he decided that he wasn't going to practice. He wasn't going to do things the right way. You know, we're out there trying to work, and he's going half speed, everybody else going full speed, getting people almost injured. And finally, I went up to that brother, and I said, talk to me. Do you want to be here or not? Do you want to be a part of this? Because if you don't want to be a part of this, guess what? I can get you out. And he said, I don't want to be a part of this. Cool. I went right up to Mr. Al Davis, get him out. We're struggling as it is, trying to be a great football team here, you know, and we don't need people around who don't want to be here. I mean, guys are struggling as it is. Let's not have guys who absolutely don't want to be here. If a guy's going to say that to me, then we need to get him out. And they suspended him for 4 weeks. He came back and actually played pretty decent for us for the next year and a half, 2 years. But in a situation like that, I think it's so critical that we understand the people around us, how these people play, the part that they play in your business, and more importantly, what is the long-term goal and future of these employees in your company? Because I think with that, once you know that they're in, because people, hey, everybody has ideas of what they want to do. And maybe being with you for 15 years is not that. And I'm not saying you get rid of anybody, but I do believe that you have to have people who are locked in and dedicated to what you're trying to accomplish. All right? Thank you very much, guys. God bless you. Appreciate you.